which will look at the 18 days of revolution, will remember the dead, and will look forward. A question is this: how much of it will be celebration and how much of it will be frustration? Because there are signs being shown now that there is dissent at the way the Supreme Military Council is planning the path ahead. It has said that it will come up with plans for a referendum within 2 months. There is a committee in place that will deliver recommendations in a matter of days now, but there are criticisms coming from many quarters. Mohammed El-Baradei saying that there has to be a presidential council that has to have more civilians in it, because he fears that the military, if they run the whole transition for 6 months, that they may not be prepared to let go. The Supreme Council has assured Egypt that it's not interested in putting up a candidate of its own, which will be the first time in 6 decades the military haven't done so. But nevertheless, there is concern about their progress.
Well, of course, the Military Supreme Council, Andrew, has been talking to the leaders of today's march as such. And though they're letting it go ahead, they're also very concerned and got their eye on the economy, because they do want life to go back to normal. They can't keep having these demonstrations. It sends the wrong signals, surely, does it not, to the international community about what Egypt has to offer?
That is the quandary. So, I mean, a complete disarray in the economy right now. The banks haven't reopened, the stock market hasn't reopened, tourism is in a terrible mess, and of course there's more and more unrest within the labour market. And calls from the Supreme Council for calm haven't really been observed in the way that they'd wished. What will be a key test today will be the arrival of Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, and he has some demands he's put here in a statement released on Thursday, in which he's calling for the emergency rule to be lifted, the emergency powers to be lifted sooner rather than later. He's calling for more moves to be made to civilianize the leadership. A very important point here. And he's calling for a more detailed roadmap forward. And that is sort of reflected right across the board. Now, this cleric, he's an Egyptian citizen, but he's living in Qatar right now. He's been detained 3 times by the regime here, and he flew in Thursday, and he's going to be leading prayers, and he's going to be one of the frontline speakers, certainly the sermon. He's going to take the sermon, one of the many sermons in the service. So he is an incredibly popular figure. He is a spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, but also seen throughout the Sunni Muslim world as a key person in terms of the opposition here. So much interest in what he says. And of course, right across the board now, some protests from pro-Mubarak demonstrators, it's thought today, they will be trying to tell the people of Egypt, remember this man, not in a bad way. Now that is a separate protest elsewhere in the city, but many eyes are going to be on that. A big challenge today for security and a big challenge on the way forward.
And certainly you'll be following events for us there from Cairo. Andrew Simmons, thank you. Well, polls have opened in Uganda for the presidential and parliamentary elections. Opposition figure Kizza Besigye has warned of protests if voting results are seen as unfair. But President Yoweri Museveni is confident of a landslide win to extend his 25 years in office.
Why are you so agitated that there must be change? The economy is growing very well. We have brought peace. Education is expanding. So, what are your worries?
AlJazeera's Mohammed Ado is in the capital, Kampala.
Voting took off to a slow start in Kampala. The delays were caused by the late arrival of polling material in most of the centers. However, election officials are confident that they will allow everybody who turns up at the polling stations to cast his or her own vote. Voting is supposed to end at 5 p.m. Local time, but they say they will add more time in case there are people remaining in the polling stations. Uganda is a fledgling democracy. These are just the 6th elections in 49 years since this country's independence. President Museveni is facing a stiff challenge from a number of opposition candidates who say they have a ploy to deny the president the needed votes in the first round to necessitate a second round in which they say they will sponsor a single candidate against him.
Haiti struggles to cope with the cholera outbreak that's killed more than 4,500 people. Among those trying to deal with the disease is this group of Cuban doctors. We'll have the story after the break, along with America's new man in Afghanistan and Pakistan. A new envoy is selected following the death of Richard Holbrooke. Do stay with us.
Over the Sea of Japan, as cool conditions persist, you'll find something to whet your appetite.
Hello there. Well, it certainly is very, very wet for many of us over Australia at the moment. On the satellite picture, you can see one cyclone there, that's staying offshore, but the other one is disintegrating still as it works its way southwards. Now, this one has certainly caused us problems recently. In a 3-day period, just between Tuesday and Thursday, we saw 644 millimetres of rain from this one storm. And now up to around 0 GMT on Friday, we've only seen another 38. So hopefully the worst is now over, but it certainly hasn't finished raining for Darwin yet. Here's the charts, and over the next few days you can see Saturday we're going to see yet more wet weather there as that storm slowly tracks its way southwards. And that's the problem with these storms, is that they move so slowly, so once you start to see the rain it just sticks around. Another storm, that's the one called Diane, is staying offshore, but it's still going to be throwing lots of wet weather there towards Western Australia, so here we are likely to see widespread flooding as we head through the next couple of days. Now, up towards Pakistan, there's been lots of wintry weather here recently, and you can see it here, making its way up towards the northeast, through parts of Afghanistan as well, and into the far northern parts of India. Further south, largely fine and dry, and for the eastern parts of India, just a bit of cloud that may give us 1 or 2 showers, but really, there'll be more showers there once more for Sri Lanka.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
From the world to your phone. AlJazeera Mobile.
On the next Rizcon show, the battle over blasphemy. Has Pakistan's controversial law become a political tool in the hands of religious conservatives? Rizcon at this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back to Al Jazeera. A reminder of our top stories. Egyptian authorities have arrested 3 former government ministers and a businessman suspected of corruption. Crowds are gathering in Cairo to celebrate a week since President Mubarak's departure. Further demonstrations are underway in Libya after a number of people died in a crackdown on protests. Human Rights Watch is reporting that the death toll could be as many as 24. Funerals are underway in Bahrain for protesters killed in Thursday's violent crackdown in Manama. The city remains under police lockdown. As turmoil spreads in the Middle East, questions are being asked about the United States' response. President Barack Obama has continued to waver in his position, depending on US alliances.